Hey, welcome to Air Called Anything. So I'm working on the CB Performance 2017 motor again. I'm a little bit out of sequence because I've been having pushrod problems, which I would have published that video already, so you can have a look at that one. That was hopefully it works out well because I haven't finished that yet, so I've got to finish that video before I post this one. But whilst I'm waiting for a new set of pushrod seals to turn up, I'm going to fit the thin line oil sump, which adds extra volume of oil to the engine to help with cooling. I had a very interesting comment from a chap called Matthew, who's talking about the pros and the cons of cooling your engine outside the stock requirements or the stock specifications of a VW engine. So obviously a stock engine, it cools from air being blown over the cylinder heads and the cylinders, and also by cooling the oil, which blows air through an oil cooler which cools the oil, and then the oil is then recirculated around the engine, so it stops the oil getting too hot. When you've got a more powerful engine, the engine is going to rev a little bit more, it's going to work a little bit harder, and the oil is going to get a little bit hotter. So it stands to reason to cool the engine. Now, my friends who run VW businesses here in the UK, I was talking to them about building a bigger motor for my bus, and they were saying, yeah, anything over 2 litres, you really want to start thinking about helping the cooling with an external oil cooler. A very good friend of mine who runs a very successful business said that you really need an external oil cooler if you're going to build this 2017 motor. So that's what I'm doing. He also suggested a deep sump, which is why I ordered one from CB, a very mild one. Mild as in it's not super deep. And the bus is stock height, so I'm not worried about ground clearance. But even if I was, that's not a lot of extra ground clearance. I mean, unless you've got a really low car, in which case then, yeah, you might want to reconsider that. So anyway, Matthew was saying that if you're in a climate which is super hot, like I think he's in Australia, where it does get, especially if you're in the north of the country, it gets really hot there. I mean, I've been to Queensland and it's tropical basically. It's super hot. Where it gets that, when you're in an environment which is that hot, like California, for example, then extra cooling is essential. But he reckons in the UK it's not. So it's made me start to wonder and think, am I doing the right thing? And then he also raised a very good point, which is when you first start up the engine and the engine is cold, if you've got all this extra cooling and this extra oil, it's going to take a lot longer to get up to temperature, and you're going to have bad performance from the engine until it gets warm. And if it's a cold day, which it quite often is in the UK, and I do intend to drive this bus all year round, so in the winter, will it ever get up to temperature? I mean, imagine it will if you drove it hard enough, but how long is it going to take to get up to temperature? So toying with the idea of running the old-fashioned, well, the stock style thermostat system, which opens and closes the tins to allow the air to recirculate, warm the engine up. Once the engine gets hot enough, the bellows open the flaps and allow the air to escape and fresh air to be brought in. So I'm debating that. Now, I don't know which way to go. Go with the info from Matthew, who's been sending me lots of very good comments, very interesting information, and he sounds like he knows what he's talking about. Or do I trust what the guys at CB were recommending with the oil cooler and my friends in the UK? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fit the oil sump and the oil cooler, and then as an experiment, and we're going to see how it runs, how it warms up, and then if it's no good, and I feel, you know, it's not, I can remove it. So we'll just take the sump off and we'll take the oil cooler off and we'll make it a non-full flow. And we'll just return the oil straight from, or change the oil pump. So it goes straight back, or just circulate it back through. Another suggestion he's mentioned is an inline thermostat which bypasses the oil cooler completely until the oil is up to temperature, and then it allows it to travel through the oil cooler. So I'm definitely going to do that. That's a really good idea. So without further ado, we will get into fitting this oil sump. Now, your pickup tube needs to be extended, and the CB kit comes with a large diameter pickup tube and a standard diameter. I've got the standard on the AS41 case. It also comes with a Jubilee clip. It must be a US spec nut on the end there, bolt, because none of my spanners fit, and I haven't got any small Imperial spanners. So I've sorted it out for a slightly more heavy duty Jubilee clip, which my spanners do fit. And I think I much prefer the idea of a more heavy duty Jubilee clip. Right, so let's get into, this is the first thing you do, is fit this. So here's your oil sump plate on the AS41 case. You'll see that there's a 45-degree end cut here on this, and I think the idea is, so this is the back flywheel end of the motor, well, the front of the motor, and this is the back of the motor, where the crank pulley is. And I think the idea is you put it on like thus, so that when you're accelerating, or going uphill I suppose, and the oil all sloshes back the back of the sump, then it's able to pick up oil as normal there. So the Jubilee clip just goes on like thus. 7mm spanner, and we just tighten it up. You can get an all-in-one extended pickup tube. You have to take the original one out of the case, and then you have to press in a longer one. Easy Jeezy had a really good video, I think it was him I saw doing that job. I beg your pardon if it wasn't easy, but I'm pretty sure it was easy. That hasn't gone on, I've been too busy talking, and that's come down too far, so you want it right on the end. So 7mm spanner is now slipping on this. That's very annoying. Maybe we should have fitted this before we put the case together. And that's still loose. Yeesh. So there you go, like everything else in this build, nothing is simple. So this Jubilee clip is the nut, which is a 7mm nut, has rounded off. So I've had to yank it off, and we'll remove it and see if I've got another one, a better one. So I've got another one here. See if this one works any better. Exactly the same type. Still loose. Really don't want this coming off. Yep, it's rounding again. No good. Don't like that. So I'm having to revert to the Jubilee clip. I used two of my own, the Jubilee clip that came with the kit, and I have a socket which fits this Jubilee clip, but my small socket wrench doesn't go in, so I put some tissue paper in because I'm terrified of dropping something into the case now it's all sealed up, and the socket just about goes in, and I've got an Allen on top of it which is also Imperial. Doesn't fit a standard size wrench, so I'm going to try and use an adjustable, which that's worked. Adjustable doesn't really fit. This is not the way to do it. The way to do this, as I have now learnt, is to attach this before you put the case together. Right, this is going to take a long time. And once it starts to get tight, I think it's going to be hard. There we go. That is rock solid. So I was very disparaging about the CB Performance Jubilee clip, saying it wasn't as good as my own that I have, and mine turned out to be crap, and theirs turned out to be really good. And I managed to get it on with my Heath Robinson style spanner, and it's on nice and firm, and I'm pretty sure that's not going to come off, which is a good thing. Right, next thing to do is to fit the oil bypass on the oil pressure release valves, because if we don't do those now, trying to fit them with the sump on, well, especially the one near the flywheel, I can never remember if that's the bypass or the pressure relief. I think it's the bypass. I think what that one does is when the pressure's too low and the oil's too thick, or the pressure's too high and the oil's too thick. Anyway, I think it bypasses the oil cooler, the stand-up doghouse cooler. That's the short spring, I know that, and it goes on the flywheel end. The long spring goes at the crank end, so we're going to fit those now. CB have sent a kit, this kit here. So it comes with the 2 springs, the 2 plungers, 2 crush washers, and the 2 caps which go on. And then it's also sent some studs. I should imagine they're the engine to gearbox studs, and I have no idea what these other studs are for. I guess we'll find out. And then there's also the Type 3 block off cap, which is currently missing in action. So we're going to fit these now, these springs and plungers. So we'll do the one at the crank pulley first. I've got the plunger on the end of a magnet. You can use these magnet like this to, if you're taking apart a case, you can, that's how I get them out with this magnet. They should just slide out. So put a load of oil on it. Better have too much than too little. Coat it all round, and it just goes in the hole, she said. Take the magnet off, poke it up with your finger. Then we'll get a little bit of oil on the spring too. In it goes, and it's quite a lot of tension. If you haven't already subscribed to Easy Jeezy's channel, I highly recommend you do. He's got loads of great videos on there, and he has one which I think is entitled Single Relief and Dual Relief Case Comparison, or something like that. I think he came up with a lot more catchy title than that. And in that he talks about aftermarket springs, aftermarket plungers, and all that sort of stuff. So the next thing to do is put this cap on, which is easier said than done. And I'm glad to report that these aren't, for my benefit, these aren't Imperial Allen caps. They are metric, so they're H8.
and I have plenty of metric tools. So you just get it in, get it started, hopefully like this, he says, a few threads, and it's in. There's a copper crush washer. Well, it's not actually a crush washer, it's just a copper washer. So I'm not going to put any sealant on that. I'm going to put it in dry, and we'll see if it leaks. If it leaks, then we can always put some sealant on. There's probably a torque setting for these, and I don't know what it is, so I'm just going to snug them down for now. And then I'll go and look up, see if there is a torque. The stock one's come with a crush, so that's it. I've tightened it down, nice firm tighten. And then we'll wipe off the excess oil, which is ruining my paint job. Hopefully there will never be any oil on here again. I wish. The stock ones are like a slotted cap, and they're a nightmare to get off, and they're a nightmare when you're stripping down an old engine. They're a nightmare to get off. I just always struggle. What I do is I've got a piece of bar, I put a piece of bar in it and I use that like a lever to get them going. It's the only way I've managed to do it. Right, let's do the other one. So the other one, as you can see, is at the flywheel side. It takes exactly the same plunger, which we'll put some oil on, and I won't bother with the magnet because that didn't really work, did it? Just pulled it back out again. Pop it in, you know, like I'm just using, got it jammed on in my finger, just making sure it moves up and down smoothly, which it does. And this one takes a tiny weeny little short spring. Just got stuck into my finger. And again, it takes another one of those Allen caps with a copper washer on it. And this is easy to get in because it's under less pressure from that spring. There we go. With the two pressure release springs installed, we can now install the sump. It just bolts onto where the sump plate would normally go. It didn't actually come with any hardware. The kit came with the hardware to attach the new sump plate to the base of the sump. But there were some 10mm nylock nuts knocking around in the hardware kit that they sent, so I imagine those are they. No washers, so I am going to fit washers to those. Now, because I'm fiddling with nuts and washers around the sump area, if I took the easiest way to do it was just have the engine upside down and plonk the sump on, put the washers and the nuts on. But I'm terrified that with my clumsiness they are going to fall off and go inside the engine, and I'm never going to get them out, and I'm going to have to crack it open again. So what I'm going to do, just to make my life really difficult, is I'm going to turn the engine the right way up. I'm going to get on my back in the workshop, and I'm going to put them on with the engine the right way up, so put them on upside down, so that if I do drop any, gravity will be my friend and they will fall back out the engine and not up into the engine, unless there's some sort of weird gravity shift which goes on here in London. So before we put the sump on, we obviously need to put the gasket. So I've got some ultra grey Permatex sealant on, and I saw a video the other day. Someone used an old sump plate to help force these gaskets on. If they're going on a bit, you can't quite get them on. You just partially put them on and you use the old sump plate to push them on, which works brilliantly well. Right, before I go any further, I'm going to clear up my hands, and I apologise for the circling helicopter. As you all know, doing stuff upside down is never easy. I'm doing it. So gravity is my friend, but it's also my enemy, because whatever I put on is going to want to come off. So the sump goes on like thus. Of course it's not going to stay there, so we need to get a washer on. And then try and get a nut on. You can see what I mean. If you were doing this the other way up, I'm guarantee I would drop one of these nuts into the engine and it would rattle around in there I'd try and get it out with a magnet and I would fail. Now, I'm not sure that a washer is such a good idea, because I'm seeing that the nylock is not going to catch. I'll put 2 on with washers and I'll just snug them up. Yeah, then we're not going to get the nylock engaged. I am now able to let go, but I can see that's not gonna, it's not gonna engage the nylocks. So maybe you are supposed to fill it without washers. Just a piece of sand cast aluminum. Oh, and that's the other thing. Sand cast aluminum. It's a really good idea to clean it out first, which is what I've done. I've washed it out and then I sprayed it WD-40, blew it out with an airline. Because another piece of information from young Matthew in Australia, informing me that, you know, these sand castings can have particles left in there. Gonna need a skinnier socket than that, I think. Yeah, I'm gonna do the others. The nylock's not engaging, so I'm gonna do the others without washers. And no washers were supplied. No extra studs were supplied to, you know, lengthen the studs. Yeah. Laying on my workshop floor talking to you. Yeah, I don't like that. Even the one, I put 2 on without washers, and I've put 2 on with washers. The 2 with washers are no good at all. Nylock's not engaging. And the 2 without washers, one of them nylock's engaging just about, and the other one it's not. So I'm going to put regular stainless steel 10mm across the flat nuts on there, and I'm going to put some blue Loctite on them, and we are going to do it that way. So I'll take these ones without washers off. So I've got some standard nuts. I've got blue Loctite on them, 241, and we're just going to put these on without washers. What Harry Pello says to do is, you know, when your fastenings have got stampings on them, you know, the numbers you find on the ends of these nuts, bolt these nuts always have the fastening, the stampings facing out, just to help with the load. I'm not sure how much difference that really makes, but might as well do it, eh? And we'll see if doing it this way we get any leaks. Right, got 4 on, still got the nylocks on the others, and we'll just get these on. Oh, in the face. There you go. If the engine had been the other way up, that would have gone in the engine. Now I've got my torque wrench, and I'm just going to set these to 8 foot-pounds. Very minimal torque. Actually, I'm sorry, it's not 8, I meant 7. Just a gentle snug. I'm not sure if I'm doing these to 7 foot-pounds. I haven't read anywhere that's what you do. Just feels like a good number. That's what we were doing on something else. Feels to me that's, there we go. Well, that's that part of it installed. Next thing to do is, I've screwed one of these in. There are these studs which need to go in, and once again I'm going to do these upside down. And there was a sticker on the packet that all this came in, and it said that these studs should be red Loctite in to prevent leaks. So that's what we'll do. We'll just put some red Loctite on, and we'll just finger screw them in until I feel the thread coming out on the other side there, like that, and then we'll leave them to dry before we put on the plate. Red Loctite, and we're just gonna screw them in. No need to double nut these, they just go in by hand. They're very loose, which is why I guess you need to put Loctite on, stop any leaks, you know, any oil coming down from the threads, negating the washers, copper washers. And again, this is another product made, stamped Claude's Buggies, which I do believe was the company with CB Performance was Claude Buggies before they became CB Performance. I think the guy that owns, the guy that owns CB Performance worked at Claude's and bought them out and became CB. There we go, job done. Now the final thing to do is to fix the sump plate, the drain plate, which goes on like this. There's a gasket. It comes with nice big gasket. There's 8 studs here rather than 6 on the stock. So you're going to get all the oil coming out in one fell swoop. Now you can fit an oil strainer to here, which is what I'm going to do, and it doesn't come with an oil strainer in the kit. And there's these 2 Allen screws with wave washers, and you just put your stock style strainer on here, screw it down with just 2 of the studs, and then the whole thing bolts on. Now I haven't got one of those strainers, didn't come with the kit, haven't got one on the shelf. I've got a 36 horse one, with a lot smaller, doesn't fit, so I need to get a bigger one. So I'm just going to snug down the nuts. Comes with these copper washers, which will just go on, and then next time I order some parts, which will probably be in, hopefully not pushrod tubes, more pushrod tubes, I'll add that to the order, because I'm not paying £5 postage for a part that's only going to be a few quid. Comes with these nice cap nuts, 10mm. So just going to put those on, all these on finger tight, and leave it at that. Or might have to use a socket on that one, because the stud's obviously a bit damaged. There we go. So that's another couple of jobs ticked off the list. Bypass valves installed, sump installed, well, nearly installed. We've got to get a strainer on there, but that's a very easy thing to do, and I don't need to show you how to do that, do I? Or show me doing that even. We can assume I've done it. Anyway, so I'm hoping in the next few hours
my pushrod tube seals turn up, and it went well, and the video that I posted before this one ended happily. Anyway, thanks for watching.